Welcome to this special edition of the KARDS Bunker Chat. Today we're going to be talking about legions. My name is Ólafur Steinarsson and I will be your host as normal, and with me is of course Guðmundur Kristjánsson, our fabulous co-founder and creative director of KARDS. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You managed to catch up on some sleep post-expansion launch?
Yeah. I got some sleep and got my first COVID shot as well.
Oh! When did you get that?
Great stuff.
Was it?
A couple of days ago.
Okay. Did you get any side effects?
No, I didn't really get sick, but yesterday I was feeling quite like under the weather though.
I got you. Well, I mean, we are super excited to be back in the bunker here with you. We didn't do it last week because we were very busy getting legions out to you all, but we're here today and a lot has happened, so we're happy to sit down and to talk to you guys. Since the last time, the biggest thing is obviously the Legions expansion. So we're going to start by talking about that for a little bit. But before we jump into that discussion, let's take a look at the official Legions launch trailer.
Bracie mój ze stali, tobą mnie na życie i na śmierć wiązali. Tobą mnie na życie i na śmierć wiązali.
There you have it. That was the official launch trailer for Legions. Some historical nods there to Poland, and for me personally, that was my favorite part about working on this expansion, was actually learning a lot more about the history of the Second World War. Something that's a lot of fun, showing up to work and learning about history. But Gumi, Legions is now the third major expansion in the game. Well, fourth if you count Theaters of War, which was kind of a different release, but we had the Legions and Breakthrough that were similar to Legions. How does it feel to release the fourth expansion, and what's been your favorite part of bringing Poland to the game?
I mean, I think it's always fun, and it's really nice to when we finally get it out, because usually we've been working on it for a few months. What we wanted to kind of do with this expansion was to, of course, like you said, I mean, we're focusing a bit on the historical part of how Poland played its role in World War II. Another thing we wanted to do was to make an expansion that was a little bit more maybe down to earth than Breakthrough, for example, which has the research cards and all this, really quite extreme mechanics. So, and I think we did pretty well with that. It kind of adds, cards to various older synergies and deck types that maybe have not been that powerful, and gives quite a lot of new options, which is the whole purpose.
Yeah, I mean, we introduced two new keywords in the expansion with Intel and Exile. How did those come about, and kind of what was the desired effect on the game, with these keywords? What were you looking to accomplish there?
Well, the Intel, if I begin with that, well, I've wanted to, and I've advocated for a long time that we should add more kind of information warfare, espionage kind of things to the game. And we already have some cards, that like Bletchley Park and MI5 and things like that, the names indicate that they should be doing information warfare, because it was such a big part of World War II. But now we actually added a feature that actually does that. You get to see the cards of the opponent, and you try to, as best you can, use that information for your advantage. And I think I think that is a really fun mechanic, and in my opinion, we just kind of started out with a base version of it, but I think we can do much more on top of that feature, both with cards that interact with Intel and maybe some new versions of it.
It's funny because during the Cards Open, I was talking to Darkness about this, and we were talking about some of the new decks that kind of had been started, and he was playing a lot around with Intel, and he was saying like, I was very quickly to basically know my opponent's entire hand, but then he just kept wrecking me with the top decks because it was the one card that he didn't know, and he was basically playing around the entirety of the rest of the hand. But if he drew an answer, it can sometimes be a double-edged sword, and that I thought was pretty interesting, because I always thought like more information just means you automatically win more, but just like in the war, there's also, you have to have all the information. If you're missing one piece, that might just be the difference between victory or defeat.
It might lead you on the wrong path, possibly. That's a good point.
What about Exile?
Exile was that was maybe even more directly based on the role that the Polish units played in the war, and maybe was just sparked a little bit by all the artwork that we also had and saw of the Spitfires with the Polish markers and the various Soviet units, and then we have more. There might be some Polish units appearing soon that you can exile with other nations.
Okay.
I mean, that's just what they did. I mean, they played a big part in some of the armies of the other allied nations. So we wanted to kind of reflect that, and kind of, it's also maybe a bit of a homage to, multicolored, cards in Magic the Gathering, something like that,
What I thought was interesting, and I mean, kind of, do you feel like Poland as a secondary or like ally nation is kind of a little bit more valuable, the cards in there, because you can use them without having to lock in Poland, as that ally nation, right? It's like it kind of adds a little bit more than the more kind of isolated card collections of France and Italy, where you kind of, I'm playing Germany, Italy, or I'm playing, Japan, France. But with this, I can play Soviet Britain, but still have a bunch of Polish units.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it opens up for, you can splash them in different places, so they kind of allow for a lot of options.
So now with Legions being out, what are your favorite cards in the expansion? Have you built any decks, during testing that you're particularly fond of? Any synergies that you like?
Yeah. Especially just after it came out, I've been playing quite a lot, and if I just start with the favorite cards, I think maybe 5-year plan. I love that card.
Yeah.
It's just it's both the functionality, but also I kind of like these poetic cards. It's 5 and 5 and 5 and 5. And it does something really dramatic, and the artwork is cool on it, and I really like it. ATS, I also think, is a really interesting card.
What's that one? Remind me.
It's the British card that is in the cycle of cards that you play on the enemy HQ.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also, I'm a creative director, so I also pick favorites because of artwork and stuff like that. But it's a good card anyway. With the decks, I've been playing a bit. One thing I've been trying out is a Soviet-Italian kind of life gain deck, because the Soviets got some really interesting life gain cards now. The Road to Berlin and what's 261st rifles, which give you life equal to, or defense equal to the damage they get.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have a lot of those, stacked up when the enemy has, you know, a couple of Manhattan projects in hand, and you even start gaining when you know, defense when he plays them. But yeah, I don't think it's maybe a top tier deck, but it's fun to play. Another thing I tried was splashing in, because I've always played a bit of, been a fan of British Air. And I tried replacing the Gladiators with the new RAF Buffaloes, which are a little bit more heavy. And they cost 2, so they get out of the range of the Flam Panzer, which is the, you know, typical answer for that deck. But it's a little bit slower. And then there was another British Air unit, the Bowfighter, which is also interesting to test out. A pretty solid elite one.
Yeah. It was what? You take 3 damage when you attack it or something?
Yeah, it's 4/4, and the unit that attacks it takes 3 damage before.
Yeah, so it's basically like ambush with 3 damage, right? Yeah.
So that's yeah, I've been having good success with that. Yeah, then I've been playing around, of course, with the Polish cards. Yeah. And a kind of a commando legions kind of deck, you know, using resourcefulness to draw extra commandos and trigger the intel and so on. I think, I'm not sure if it's top tier either, but it's fun to play. It's probably better to focus completely on the legions cards or the commandos. But yeah. So, but I still, you know, and there are some things that I'm thinking about that I still want to try out. So there's a lot of, I think it's a fun expansion.
That's what I've been hearing, and I've been hearing that from a few people in the community, that like this has opened up so many kind of deck building avenues for them. Now, I mean myself, I'm not like the greatest deck builder, but I've had a lot of fun playing around with kind of theory crafting new and different decks that can be created using these cards, and obviously, you know, doing the card reveals as well. You know, even though I'm making them, there is a point where the card is revealed for me for the first time, right? So I was like, when I was working through those, I got really excited about a few different cards. So, I mean, I'm definitely excited for this one, and it seems like the community is as well. We've seen a lot of activity and a lot of creativity. And you know, talking about decks, we actually wanted to bring you guys a couple of decks here today. So we asked 2 of our long-standing veteran players to put together decks that utilized some of the new Legions cards, either to create an entirely new deck or to reinforce or reinvent an existing meta deck. The players are J-King and Darkness, both well known in the community. And here are the decks that they brought. We'll bring up deck number 1 here, which I believe is going to be J-King's deck. Yep, there we go. And as you can see, J-King, of course, leave it up to J-King to immediately make a Soviet-controlled deck as the new expansion drops. Here's a Soviet Poland kind of control-oriented deck that plays around a lot with things like Ural factories, with, was it Red Banner? It utilizes Men of Steel, Partisans, 5-year plan. The 5-year plan. Exactly. The 214th Amur, the 70P, and some additional Polish units to really create a really interesting kind of value-driven Soviet deck that I had a lot of fun watching in action. Now, if we bring up what Darkness has brought, and we take a look at that, Darkness has brought an update to the artillery deck. So of course Darkness is going to find out a way to keep that in the meta, being the originator of the original artillery deck. But now they have, he's added in the Road to Berlin there. And the big thing that probably kind of plays the most into the combo is the shock attack. So he has 4 shock attacks in the deck, and shock attack gives you +2/+2 that turn if a unit loses smokescreen. So it's kind of a new take on the artillery deck that plays more around kind of 1-turn kill or 1-turn massive damage, and utilizes that reach of the artillery across the battlefield over into the headquarters. You can't just flood the field with units, because it will just shoot right past it and take you out. So So super huge thanks to Darkness and J King for taking the time to play this match for us, and a huge thank to Mark Theus from 983 for editing together those deck screens and the match for us. So without further ado, let's just bring up the match and take a look. And there we go, J King versus Darkness. J King is bringing his Soviet Polish deck, and Darkness his Soviet Japanese deck. And right off the bat there you can see the Zhukov in J King's hand. That's exactly what you want when starting off a match as the Soviets.
Definitely.
I'm going to move closer to the TV so I can actually see what I'm casting. I don't have my glasses on. Cuban Cossacks coming out from Darkness as well, so both players starting it off with the option of a Zhukov. J King not using his though.
They both have the same knife. That's weird.
They do have the same knife. It looks good though. Anybody wondering, that is the Soviet NR40 knife available in the store right now. First to fight, yes! So you can see that big beefy boy already in the backline there for J King, 3-6 on the stat line there. We'll be able to trade effectively against the Cuban Cossacks, but Cuban Cossacks already putting in the work, dealing 6 damage to the HQ here of J King. So, but looking at J King's hand, I mean, shock attack coming out early here and just being used to trade out one unit.
The thing is, what you said earlier was a bit incorrect, because it adds +2/+2 permanently.
Oh yeah.
It's not just until end of turn, so that is.
No, it's it adds it to the units permanently that lose smokescreen that turn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So we see already here Darkness establishing a fairly powerful board, almost taking out the first rifles with just those 2 units in the back lane, not getting the high roll on the Katyusha, so no kill coming out there. However, I mean, J King's deck is based on getting a lot of value out of the units that are placed on the board, so he's more than happy to be tanking hits at this point on his units rather than on his HQ. And the Hyura coming out, and all of a sudden the damage starts pouring out, and J King, just on turn number 6, is already at 11 HP. Losing both his units on board and kind of in a tough spot. He does have the partisans there if he does want to take control of an enemy unit and then throw it back into hand. He can remove the buff of that AA gun, but probably not worth it at this point in time. However, he is getting dangerously close to another Hyura just ending the game.
Yeah, fortunately Darkness doesn't have it in hand for him. But he has some other pretty devastating cards there. He has the Sis.
Yeah. By the sword, filling up his hand, the OT-34 there, lurking in the back line. And the effective trading just continues. Now, what I'm interested to see here is, will we see something like a Men of Steel play coming out of J King here to trade out that AA gun without losing his T60 tank? That's my question at the moment. He does have ways as well to, no, doesn't look like he wants to do that. It looks like he has other plans in mind. Guess he's fine with losing the T60 because it does populate his hand with another card. Oh,
Steel.
There we go.
So
he
survives.
I have not seen that card used in like a real match, I think ever until now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And there he gets it, the T-34. And you can see the little eye icon on it. That means it is a known card because the opponent knows that card spawns that into your hand. Yeah. And now the Partisans comes out, and he's got the Ural factories to take full advantage of it as well. And what a huge tempo swing here for J King, finding the 8-8 infantry unit in the back line and establishing the second rifles in the front line. And all of a sudden, Darkness finds himself with an exposed HQ and a lot of power on board there for J-King.
Plus they are gold cards.
They
which
are
makes
gold
them
cards.
more intimidating.
That's true, that's true. I really like the new gold cards. I think it's a huge improvement on the old ones.
Yeah, they're at least better than they used to be.
We'll just continue working on them,
Yeah, I think we can improve them even more.
make a
but
few
they're
more
nice.
tweaks. OT-34 coming out, along with the T-28 here from Darkness. Both of these have smoke screens, so he's really looking for a shock attack to make absolute massive use of that order in the coming turns. But J-King, biding his time, figuring out what he wants to do, he drops, I forget what the unit name there is, but basically what this does, it gives a unit +1/+1 if it has heavy armor and survives combat. So really, really good. Now combat
the
being...
Polish,
Yes.
the Sturmovik.
Sturmovik.
Yeah, it's called Illusion 2 on the card there.
Yes.
But it's same plane as Sturmovik.
Yeah, that one. Basically means that you get a lot of value out of that Men of Steel if you start taking combat damage. And combat damage means units fighting against units and one of them surviving. It does not mean hitting the HQ or receiving damage from orders. And you can see a key card in Darkness's deck there, for the Emperor, and it's coming out now because that's going to drop the operation cost for his units by 1 and give them +1. So giving him the power to do quite a bit of trading here in the front line. Yeah, there we go. The OT-34 dealing double damage to infantry units. Coming in handy there, dealing 14 damage, getting rid of that 8/8. And finding the high roll on the Katyusha, taking that bomb.
The heavy armor.
Yeah. Heavy armor saved it there. And there you see it. There you see the bomber's effect in action. The 238 didn't take any damage,
No.
and they gained 1/1. So
It's a crazy combination, the heavy armor and this ability to grow like that.
especially when you can be
The
trading
damage.
into, bombers or low attack artillery units or
Yeah.
low attack infantry units, and I'm actually pretty interested in how this is going to play against like the first commando, for instance. If we see Man of Steel being more popular in the meta, the first commando becomes less effective because you're now able to trade with it if you get that heavy armor 1 on. So it's going to be interesting seeing this card kind of make its way into the meta potentially. C is coming out, 2 damage there, taking out the Yak 7. There's another C's in hand, so he is, he's actually not able to take out that bomber because of the heavy armor. Holding a shock attack in hand though, so.
It's fitting, these planes were sometimes called flying tank.
Oh really?
Yeah, I think even the Germans called them that.
I feel like there's a lot of like these types of, oh really, moments if you go digging in cards, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that maybe we can do better in the future is like highlight those moments and highlight those parts. I mean, we kind of do it in the history text, and we've started doing it on Facebook as well. I don't know if people have noticed, but we've started kind of posting historical tidbits related to cards on Facebook, and we do hope you enjoy that because if you're like us, we enjoy history, so. But now, after kind of falling behind a little bit early, J-King is starting to find a good tempo here, and
Yeah.
pretty good ways to answer back. And it looks like he's going to be in the driver's seat here. Darkness not having the cards in hand that he really needs to answer.
No, I don't think that shock attack is gonna save him at this point, but let's see, maybe he draws something. Oh, there we have one of the new ones as well, right?
Yeah, the Katyusha is there, not getting the high roll, and there is a 2 heavy armor there on those rifles, on those 285th rifles, I want to say. I don't know why I forgot these right now. Road to Berlin coming in. 5-year plan. Jaking is healthy enough to drop 5-year plan now and completely refresh his hand if he wants, but he just's gonna go for it. He notices that he has lethal and Jaking 7, taking the Soviet control deck all the way and beating out Darkness's improved artillery deck. 845th rifles. Yes. So full disclosure, they did play another game. Darkness did win that one, but we don't have time to show both of them. But I will send them that game in, like, as Mark Theus has put it up with both hands visible, and I'll allow them to upload that to their YouTube or something like that. So, because I think people want to see that.
Would also be great to have the deck lists.
Yes, a deck list. I'll put those up on the deck builder, kards.com/decks.
Awesome.
So, we should be good on that one. All right. Well, those were cool decks.
Yeah, as to be expected from these guys.
Of course. We got to see some new cards in action.
Definitely, and yeah, I mean, there were some really interesting synergies there. The shock attack obviously is something we're going to be seeing in the meta, I think, as well as the that Polish tactical bomber.
Yeah. The flying tank.
Yeah.
We just learned a little bit about it in this one. But that's awesome. We'll come back to Legions a little bit later when we jump into the questions. But for now, before we jump into the questions, we wanted to talk a little bit about the in-game event that just started today. So live right now in Cards, we have the D-Day event. Just like last year, we're doing an in-game event to commemorate D-Day. The D-Day event is a limited time in-game event with exclusive prizes for the next few days until 9 a.m. GMT on the 7th of June. Mini tournaments are available in the client. You pay 4 gold to enter, and if you win 2 matches, you walk away with 10 gold. If you win 1 match, you walk away with 6 gold, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have special operations that tie into this. Special operations are limited time missions that are only available for the duration of the event, and there's 4 of them. It's so the D-Day tournaments are only mono decks, which means you can only play with either decks that contain only cards from Britain, only cards from USA, or only cards from Germany. And that's kind of a nod to the biggest players and actors within D-Day in the war. And so if you play 3 tournaments as Britain, you'll get a British national pack after you complete that special operation. So even if you go and play 3 tournaments as Britain and you lose the first game in all of them, you've just paid 12 gold for a national pack. So there's no reason not to play. So everybody should pretty much clear your schedule, clear the weekend, grind the gold, finish your collection, utilize this special limited time event, and enjoy. We really do hope that you enjoy, and give us your feedback at the end. They've spent all their golds on packs. Well, exploring, what you need to do is you need to finish 1 daily mission, and then you get 5 gold. And then you can play a tournament.
There's no problem to get some gold.
All right, well, with that said, this is the end of our scheduled programming, so we want to turn to you guys for your questions for a few minutes before we head on out. So if you have any questions, please drop it in Twitch chat now, and we will answer it as we go. Is it possible to add a variable to the deck codes to know if the cards are gold when you copy them? So when you copy a deck, it retains the gold cards. Now you have to go back and re-add them manually.
I have never thought about it. That's a good question. I kind of would have assumed that the gold cards is something more on the personal level. So when you post a gold card, or if you want to add the gold versions to your deck, then you might be okay to do it manually. But if people think this would be helpful, then it's definitely probably pretty easy to do.
I mean, I think I'm really happy that we see this question because I think this highlights something. I think this highlights that now people are actually thinking about the gold cards. Up until we made these changes, people just did not care. This has never come up now, but now people are like, hey, I would really much like to keep including my gold cards, but not have to manually add them every single time. So I think it's an indicator that we did something good on the gold cards.
Yeah.
So I'm
indeed.
actually happy to see that question, and we'll definitely look into it. When will other devs show up? Well, some of our devs are really camera shy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. As much as kind of game developers traditionally like to talk, not all of them like to talk in front of a camera. So we kind of feel like it's a little bit unfair from us to kind of expect that from people when it isn't really, a core part of their job. So we definitely want to find ways to introduce you guys to different members of the team in the future. But while we're kind of still, most of our content is, live content, streaming content, that kind of stuff, it just isn't everybody's cup of tea. So
Yeah. I'm thinking also maybe we could hire some actors to play them.
yes, that would actually be great. We'll just get we can get a nice sitcom cast. It's
Yeah.
really like a Friends, but with proper diversity and stuff,
Yeah,
and have a couch thing and make jokes. I think it could be good. All right, so we have. Are there any plans to add stats such as win ratios like we saw in a recent tournament? Poon Cakes 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna say that's my bad. I have a task on me right now, which is to dig into what stats we can show and how we want to show them, and I just haven't had the time. So it's definitely something that we want to look at, and we've touched upon this a couple of times in the past. When it comes to showing stats, there's only a very small portion of people that are actually comfortable with seeing their actual stats, right? And I know this might sound weird to some, but some people just don't want to be reminded that they got a 20% win ratio, right? Whereas others really want to be reminded that they have a 65% win ratio. So what do we show there? Do we show win ratio? Do we show number of wins? Do we show number of wins per season? Those are kind of the conversation that we need to have. So if you have any suggestions on that, shoot them to me. Anywhere you can find me. I'll read it eventually, I promise, and I'll keep it in mind. So. Do you have plans for more advertisement? Right now, I feel there is none. Not even the stream was announced on the Discord. We did put in the Steam article yesterday talking about this stream, letting people know. I think our problem is that we still, we just still lack effective communication channels, in some ways.
Yeah.
I think the value of Discord is very different in the way it looks towards us than the community, because we get to deal with the entirety of Discord, not just the channel that you're talking in. And sometimes there's a lot of activity and things just get lost in there. So I think definitely improvements are needed and are around the corner. We're also making some changes to kind of static content on our webpage. We're looking to include more information on the recurring tournaments and stuff that are ongoing there. So, but then maybe on the game acquisition, advertising front, maybe you can update us on that.
That's something we're just working on at the moment. I mean, some of you may know we recently added, you can now download the game from our website. So that will open up more possibilities for us. Marketing to get people to Steam is a little bit inconvenient because what Steam does to feature the game has so much more effect than our advertisements outside of Steam, and we lose a lot of people when they just come into Steam. They just go do something else. So I think you will probably start to see, or you will definitely start to see more marketing from us since we have our own launcher, which is still though in a kind of beta stage. We still have to polish it quite a lot. So that answers that. Also maybe one thing to add, I mean, you probably noticed recently that we have these banners in the game itself, advertising, the expansion and things like that. And we've been looking into kind of adding something into the client as well that we can use to not only to sell you stuff, but also to tell you about interesting things, you know, that require everyone's attention. Because I mean, that's probably the best place to kind of get everyone's attention. But of course, at the same time, we don't want to drown people in advertisements in the client. So it's kind of, it's a bit tricky.
I mean, we love talking about what we do, right? Like, and we could probably publish a blog a day, but that would just take up a lot of time. So, so I mean, yeah, it's all about, you know, finding that balance when it comes to this. So, hey guys, gold card packs, when and how much? It's a good question.
Soon, and I don't know.
Very expensive. I don't know, how much would you guys pay for a standard 5-card pack with only gold cards, right? Like same probabilities and all that kind of stuff, but it would only be gold cards. I don't know. I think it's, you guys have to answer that question. We can put like, we can slap like an arbitrary value on it, but I think ultimately we would want to kind of figure that out with you guys and based on your feedback.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another thing that kind of might excite some of you is like we are taking steps in terms of merchandise and getting that set up. So, you know, we're in the process of setting up an online store where you can buy some cards merch and t-shirts and possibly some hoodies and stuff. So kind of alongside the increase in advertising, you know, being available in more places, I think like we're approaching that time where you should sense cards more in the community. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. Will we ever get an option to buy packs in bulk? So are you talking about like the big bundles we've done in the past, like 100 pack bundles or something? I think so. Like I think we've done those a couple of times.
Yeah. What's the was it 60? Is that the highest number of packs in one?
Think so. In
the store. Yeah, I mean, we can try it.
We'll look at it.
1,000 officer packs.
1,000 officer packs.
If someone wants to buy it, I'm all for it.
I mean, wouldn't we just get like flamed though? Like if we put it into the game right now, like just like 1,000 officer packs with like 50% discount or something, I think we would get flamed.
Yeah, probably.
Honestly, like as much as I would love to, you know, the people that would like to buy that, I would like to be able to service that, but I think like the general population would just flame. All right, so why the change of the name from the P1Y2 Casio to P1Y2 Model 11?
We went a bit back and forth with that. We weren't actually 100% sure of which model the artwork was, and we couldn't get that information from the artist. So we were, you know, trying to research and figure out which one it was, and we ended up with changing it to this, also just to differentiate a little bit from the other type originally in there. So, but if it's not the correct one, and if it's not the correct variant, and someone knows that, then please let us know. It can sometimes be a little bit hard to figure out what is what, and we might make mistakes.
Yeah. And on the bulk pack thing, it's about like buying packs in bulk with gold. So like having like a counter thing, like where you can like be like, go in and like, I want 20 packs, and then just press it once instead of being like, buy, confirm, buy, confirm.
Getting always that ugly button there in between.
And then you like misclick the buy button, so you actually like open up like the bigger model, and then you're like, and then you click like buy, and then you close that, then you click confirm, and then you, it can be a little bit painful, so yeah. Let me see. Will the shadow changes to draft be announced?
The shadow changes. I haven't heard that concept before, but I know what it means.
Currently playing in the upside down draft, it's the alternative shadow realm of draft.
I mean, of course, initially, I mean, we set some kind of parameters on what you get out of draft, and I think if we change some of those behind the scenes, just group things a little bit differently. I don't see any reason why we would be going public with all that information of how it works. I think it's kind of, you know, interesting for players just to try it out and try to figure out how it works and try to game the system as they can. So that was kind of our philosophy also, because we don't want to get into some kind of a debate on every single change we do there. What we want to change is the end result. For a player that is doing a draft, my kind of opinion has always been that their feeling should be that they are picking cards out of a random pool. Of course, it's very obvious that it isn't random. We're grouping together types and things like that. But going into, you know, openly discussing the percentages, I think doesn't really serve any purpose for most players. And
yeah, I mean, I think it's like a matter of, you know, what we want the players to experience is a good experience. And, you know, it's like, you know, we're making a car and we're fixing the car, right? It's like the car should drive well, you should get to your destination, and the ride should feel good. But like we will have to make some tweaks, and it might just like impact the ride quality if you are aware of all those tweaks.
And I mean, the information of how it worked to begin with was never public either. So that kind of, we just figured we wouldn't be changing that.
It's also funny, like, I mean, what we can tell people is like, you know, these aren't like necessarily huge changes, right? Like these are tweaks kind of behind the scenes here and there, based on the data that we gathered. And they're also prompted because we've seen like a trend of this becoming worse and worse at handling the new cards, like the old draft system, right? It's like we didn't touch it for a long time, but we added like so many new cards and things in the pool, so things had to change. All right, so rearranging decks and more deck slots. We always get these questions. We have to do this.
Yes.
We really have to do
this. I think it's time.
Can I? You know what? Like, I'm gonna make a note. Like, on Monday, we're gonna have one engineer figure out how much work it is to rearrange decks.
Sold.
Sold?
Yeah.
You heard it here. We're going to start the exploration on this. I've started feeling this as well, a lot.
Yeah, it's inconvenient how it is.
So, is there duplicate protection for gold cards? I've gotten repeats of gold cards from Catalyst in the crate, and it didn't add to the crate percentage. So there is a duplicate protection for gold cards. No, there isn't a duplicate protection for gold cards. You can get duplicate gold cards, and it should add to the crate percentage. If that didn't happen, then please send us information and we can look into it. Do you guys have plans for when more Polish cards will come out? Will we have to wait for the next expansion, or will we get smaller expansions releasing, say, just Polish cards to help them catch up with the other nations?
So we, first of all, maybe talking about catching up to the other, I mean, because I guess you are comparing them to the other ally nations, Italy and France. So we came out with a bit more of the Polish cards from the get-go than we did with Italy and France. So I think the Poland should already be, you know, not lagging so far behind compared to those. But other than that, I don't think we're gonna come with a Poland-only expansion. We will probably be coming with a smaller expansion in a similar amount of time as usually passes between our expansions. So yeah, that's all I can say on that. Really.
Yes, we have to keep some things secret, you know, just for suspense sake. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say, you know, no more than 3 months at least.
No more than 3 months. So in exactly 3 months, every single person that's watching the stream is going to be pounding on your door, demanding another expansion.
It's 3 months away. I don't care.
So, question was here, can you allow minor nations to be main nation for deck building or AI testing? No, we won't do that, at least anywhere in the near future, because those nations aren't really intended to be main nations. They don't have any elites and so on. So maybe in the future, there might be limited time game modes where you are somehow using those cards in different ways.
Only playing allied nations.
Exactly.
Something like that.
I mean, we do have the Weekday Skirmish. For anybody interested, the Weekday Skirmish signups are live right now. That's going to be on the 9th of June. And that's going to be Axis versus Allies. So you can only make kind of historically accurate alliances in your decks. So that should be a lot of fun. Those are free to enter and just feature in-game prizes for all of the top 8. So it's a lot of fun and a good shout if you want to go and dip your toe into the competitive pool. So, we'll definitely figure out ways to play around it, but it probably won't be that way. What more? Can you fix Russian translation, please? Join Zerk, please send us feedback on the Russian translation. Do we have like an email address that like a general inbox? Do we have like KARDS@kards.com or something?
There is a contact email address on our website. I think it's just contact@kards.com.
Okay. Find that contact email and send us like an overview of that feedback for the Russian translation, and we'll definitely take a look at it. Let's see. I get to play the commando. Okay. News from mobile. I mean, the mobile update is going to be a lot of the status quo, right? I mean, we're still not ready to give you guys a confirmed date or a firm date for the mobile launch because we just don't want to set the wrong expectations and disappoint you guys again. So we're still working on it every single day. Working in the direction we recognize that it's a huge, important part for us. We're also taking other steps to just make the game available more widely and expand the player base. So until then, I would suggest if you do have the option, try playing the game on mobile through like screen sharing services or something like that, and maybe give us suggestions based on your experience there on like what you feel in the PC version doesn't work on the mobile version or on this big of a screen. So it's going to be good help for us for sure. Any plans on making gold cards able to be created with wild cards at an increased ratio? Some of us have hundreds of wild cards in a full collection.
No immediate plans, but I mean, it definitely sounds like something that makes sense, and we really want to find something for players to do that have, an abundance of wildcards that you can use them for something. That is really, and why not gold cards? It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we also want you guys to be able to purchase upgrades for gold cards in some way, so that you can kind of more control of what you make gold. And this is just, in general, I think, we still have a lot of ground to cover when it comes to kind of reinforcing personal identity in that way. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's going to be an exciting challenge to take on. Are there any plans to update the deck builder? It would be really nice to view the entire deck on one screen. We've talked about this kind of before, so.
Being able to see the deck on the whole deck on one screen is maybe it's challenging. I think most other CCGs don't manage to do that either properly. But you can probably see a bigger part of it than you see in our game. We've been meaning to overhaul the deck builder for a long time, and I think that will be something we really want to look into soon.
Yeah, I mean it's always the same story. We're still a small team. I mean, I think I was looking at like some titles that are kind of in a similar size and genre group as we are, and I believe, you know, those are all 25 plus person studios, you know, like more than twice the size of our team. So, you know, that's always a consideration for us, but it's definitely something we are aware of. And one thing that might improve this, if people kind of want to, is that recently we added in a change to the deck builder on the website where you can import decks from codes, right?
Yeah.
So now you can basically copy the code in game and you can put it onto the website, and the website does a pretty good job of showing you the entire deck on one page, and it gives you kind of a good, I would say, a better collection screen to kind of navigate and search for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do want to spend, you know, hours theory crafting and then take it into the game, maybe the website is a better place for you to do that then.
Could be. Yeah.
So maybe that's a short-term solution for you. Who knows? Any chance of trading up wild cards or choosing the rewards of the crate within the value constraint? I understand the nature of balancing progression, but currently many players are forced to hold onto large swaths of standard and limited cards as opposed to spending resources on what the player would like to use previously. I mean, I think so. I think in general, wildcards are another resource that were added to the game, right?
Yeah.
And we need to find a way to balance that resource and make it effective.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, always, that's what we said from the start, that we might not get it, you know, we just want to lay the kind of foundations for this economy with the wildcards, but that we would keep iterating on it, and I think both in terms of maybe allowing you to use it for more things, and if you are getting not the correct balance of different rarities and things like that, we will keep on tweaking that as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. The new AI is way stronger than it used to be. What happened?
I defer this question to our lead game designer that created these decks.
Is the AI has it gained consciousness and is now just racking her player base?
We've been playing around with artificial intelligence, and it's becoming a bit too good. The deep blue of cards.
That would be great. All right. What was this one? Let me see. Can we get 2 allies to build decks with to add to skillful deck building? We've been asked this a few times, and this is not something that we will be doing, at least not in like the standard mode anytime soon.
Poland.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
Exile cards.
That's true. I guess we kind of did.
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of liars, Gumi.
Yeah.
Like almost in a very kind of crooked, odd way. We're a little bit of liars.
Mm.
What else is there? Are there any more questions? Rework the ladder system to give out more exciting rewards, especially for veterans and players that commit to the grind of laddering. Nobody needs another limited wildcard for the 87th time, especially when you have a full collection.
This will be coming sooner than you think.
Yes.
We're going to add some packs in there and stuff again.
Yeah.
I'm hoping before the end of the current season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. That's sooner than even I expected.
Sooner than I expected, before I suddenly blabbered it out of my mouth, you know, on
I mean, it's also like we've been having this conversation since we did the rework, right?
Yeah.
And we've been talking about how we want to solve it, and there's kind of a few different considerations, but this also ties into like how we're just looking at competitive in general, right? So like, if you think about esports, you think about participation in tournaments, and just the competitive side of the game, it all ties into the ladder, you know, at its core, right? Because the ladder is where you go to become competitive. You go there to to build your confidence, to build your decks, to build your network of rivals and allies and so on. And if that isn't performing well, it trickles out into like the entire ecosystem around the game. So this is a core thing for us to kind of tackle. And yeah, we then also, I don't know if you guys noticed, if everyone here has logged into the game today, but with the D-Day event, we're introducing a new system that's called Special Operations. And Special Operations allow us to do something that we haven't been able to do so far very easily, which is to do limited time missions or limited time events, right?
Yeah.
So when we've been talking about goal setting and that sort of stuff, it kind of always felt a little bit weird, I guess, from our side to hear that, because from our perspective, like the national levels were pretty good goal setting mechanisms. But like the more and more we think about it, the more we realize that that's just like an underlying system that just does its job, and you kind of don't notice it, right? It just happens. And then you kind of need these bigger spikes. So with Special Operations, we have a good tool now in place that would allow us to work around that and do more kind of in-game motivation, in-game events in the future. So
Definitely.
What's the next main focus for the team now that Legions is out? Great question.
There are so many things we are aiming to do at the same time. I mean, of course, because we were asked about mobile earlier, I mean, we are actively working on both on mobile, but also on growing the team a little bit to work on mobile. And then we are, of course, focusing on we'll immediately start focusing on the next expansion, balancing patches we also want to do soon. But there are also some improvements to current systems and a lot of kind of quality of life things, UI things that we've kind of postponed because of expansions and other stuff. So I think our focus will be, scattered in various different places, just general improvements and going forward, making KARDS better and reaching a bigger audience.
Onwards and upwards, as they say.
Onwards and upwards, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would echo that sentiment. I think what I would say, I think we have like a set of really important discussions, ahead of us, just in terms of prioritization, resource allocation, and how we handle that moving forward, especially as we head on into the time like of a growing team or so on, right? Like, if the house is on fire, it doesn't matter how many people we put in there, we're still all gonna burn, right? So we have to really make sure that everything is actually good, before we start expanding the team massively. So there's plenty of work for us to do. So,
I mean, for example, some parts of the new player experience is something I really want to focus on. How you acquire the initial set of the base cards that you get and pre-made decks maybe that help you a little bit ease your way into deck building or allow you to kind of skip deck building if you don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But you have some options still to play with. So there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
If only we could have 48-hour days, that would be awesome.
And the 4 gummis. If we could have 4 U's, that would be really great.
Sounds interesting.
I don't know, interesting or terrifying? Which one?
Quite terrifying. What would happen to me? If I was only
you
one of 4.
Would you be the inferior version or the superior version? It's like, when would they diverge? Would they all be the same? What would happen? Can there only be one? Would it just immediately break out into all-out war?
It's a good question. Talking about superior, I'm still expecting to, because I got the flu, the COVID shot, that I will start performing much better, skipping sleep completely and And I will live to become 300 years old after
You know,
this shot, I
you're
think.
now like a human 5G transmitter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's how that works.
Definitely.
Right? You got 5G in your veins now. You can access the internet with just your mind.
Exactly.
Well, before we devolve too much into conspiracy theories, I think that's going to be it for us here today. It was so much fun sitting down and talking with you guys. Once again, we do hope that you enjoy Legions, that you enjoy the D-Day event as it's ongoing. As always, keep your feedback coming. Make sure to let us know what you're thinking and what you're enjoying and what you're not enjoying, wherever you'll find us. And we'll see you on the battlefield.